So we're kind of going through the 5 hindrances. We looked at worldly desire, we looked at aversion, and now we're going to go into laziness and lethargy. Many of us probably don't do a practice, maybe because some people will call it lazy. But if you are in a practice and you're going into a meditation, you can actually find that lethargy comes up. You can feel yourself very lethargic during the practice. That actually, there's a lot in here, but that might actually be your response to the practice. And so being aware of that, being like, every time that I do this practice, I fall asleep, or, whatever it might be. Maybe, right? Maybe that's the body's sort of response to that practice. There is a part of the practice that does activate the autonomic nervous system, specifically the parasympathetic nervous system, hopefully. And so if you're activating the parasympathetic nervous system and you need sleep, you might be falling asleep a lot. And so if you're sleep deprived or you're not getting good sleep, when you do the practice, you might find yourself falling asleep. If that happens, I have a few recommendations of what to do. But I think, just based on our conversations over the many years of what mindfulness is, does not have to be sitting on a pillow, in quiet doing a practice. For instance, it can very much be going on a walk and practicing walking meditation, or standing. If you feel like you're feeling tired or lethargic from the practice, you stand and you move around and you feel the contact of your feet making with the floor as you're moving. But I just want to read this passage because, again, we've talked about it. It comes up over and over and over and over again. And this is about, how we direct our attention, where we're directing our attention, to what are we directing our attention to. Our biggest asset that, just think about it. Our biggest asset that we can give to somebody is our attention. You could be sitting in the same room with somebody and not paying attention to them. And are you spending time with them? What do kids or family pay attention to me? I'm talking to you. Pay attention to me. It's like they're on their like video games or something like that. What'd I say? You're not paying attention to me. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Right. If you think of social media, if you think of advertisements, if you're driving down the freeway, right? What's trying to grab your attention? We've talked about this a lot, and we've even coined a little phrase, right? Rip rap, repetitive intentional practice with a repetitive attentional practice, right? What is your rip rap? What is your repetitive intentional practice, right? What are your intentions? What are the intentions that you are repeating over and over and over again to yourself or to others or in your practice? And then what is your repetitive attentional practice? What are you directing your attention to over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? And knowing, right, that you actually have the choice of where you direct your attention, where your rap actually goes, right? Now, oftentimes it's actually sort of taken from us. You're on social media and that new ad comes up and there goes your attention, right? Boom, to the ad, click, click, click. And they call it clickbait for a reason, because they are trying to bait your attention, right? They're trying to get you. They're trying to hook your attention, right? Boom, I got your attention. Right now I have your attention and I'm going to take you down this path and have you then purchase that $10,000, cushion that I took you down. Okay. This happens all the time, which is why those companies are so profitable. And to be aware that A, that's what they're doing, and B, that you actually have a conscious choice of where you choose to direct your attention. So where is your RAP? Where is your repetitive attentional practice? And this is also a good way of understanding, what is my just baseline default mode train of thought. When I wake up in the morning, where does my attention go? And what are the thoughts or the emotions or the sensations that rise in the default mode? What are those for you? A good way of trying to figure this out is actually writing them down. Being like, oh, wow, this is where I go. This is what my repetitive attentional practice is I constantly come back to X. I'm constantly thinking about Y. And being aware of that, because oftentimes it's automatic. We're not even aware of it. It's happening in the brain. Well, if it's happening in the brain, we may not be aware of it. And if it is happening in the brain, that's circuits that are being wired over and over again based on an unconscious practice that you have. Okay. We do have the power. First, we bring awareness to those where we're directing our attention. Then we shift it. All right. So I'm just going to read this passage here. Laziness mostly appears as procrastination. Its counterpart, lethargy, is a tendency toward inactivity, rest, and ultimately sleep. Both involve a lack of energy. Each causes different problems, but together they form a powerful hindrance. When we lack motivation, laziness and lethargy arise and keep us from making enough effort. Laziness is being resistant to doing some particular activity. I'm not gonna tell this to my kids, but listen to this next paragraph. Laziness is usually thought of as something negative, but it serves a purpose. It keeps us from spending time and energy on unnecessary, unproductive, or unpleasant activities. That's true, right? That time and energy then can be used for activities that contribute to happiness, survival, and reproductive success, right? So the question is not, are you lazy? But what if you're not doing one activity? Where is your energy or attention going towards, right? Then that's why we have the RIP part, the repetitive intention. What is the intention of your repetitive activity? Okay, because sitting on the couch just eating potato chips is just going to cause me to gain weight, and that's probably where I don't want my energy and time to go. Okay, but let me just laziness actually serves a purpose. It keeps us from spending time and energy on unnecessary, unproductive, or unpleasant activities. That time and energy can then be used for activities that contribute to happiness, survival, and reproductive success. Laziness also motivates us to use our skills and intelligence to come up with easier ways of doing things. That's probably what my son would say. Nah, I did it smarter and better than you, so now I can sit here and do nothing. All right. Laziness arises when the cost of an activity seems to outweigh the benefits. Well, that's an interesting one, right? Or if something arises when the cost of the activity seems to outweigh the benefits. For some things, maybe we don't understand what the benefits are, or maybe they're not as tangible as here's $20, right? Or here's your new car, or, peace on earth, for instance. Lethargy arises when there appears to be nothing interesting, exciting, or potentially rewarding going on. This also serves a purpose. Our body and mind need time to rest and recuperate. Rest is a better use of time than engaging in unproductive activities. Like laziness, lethargy is an evolutionary adaptation for conserving time and energy. The essence of lethargy is a progressive, involuntary loss of mental energy. The longer it continues, the harder it is to halt this downward slide. Right? Have you ever felt really lethargic? And you're like, almost like you're kind of like walking through murk, right? You're walking through molasses. Your whole body feels like, it's like even moving an arm feels like there's just so much struggle in moving the arm. The activity or desire to move the arm outweighs the benefits of moving it. There are two antidotes for laziness and lethargy. The first is to motivate yourself by thinking about future rewards. This means weighing the costs against the benefits in a rational and intelligent way rather than just trusting your emotions. For instance, whenever you have trouble bringing yourself to meditate, you can recall all the benefits that will come if you keep practicing. So to deal with laziness, you need to muster enough motivation to actually begin the task you want to complete. Dealing with lethargy means having enough motivation to complete the task rather than quitting or falling asleep. I'd like to be able to have a formal practice of at least 5 minutes without falling asleep. The second antidote is just do it. This means that you plunge in despite resistance and then engage with the task fully. This works well against laziness because the power of laziness lies in procrastination. Before we start an activity, we can question its value and suggest alternatives that seem more appealing. This seems to what my kids do when they're given a project at school. Laziness makes it hard to start a task, but once we start, it's easier to continue. If we get interrupted, though, laziness can return and make restarting difficult. In any case, since laziness often fades when we begin a task, just doing the task is the antidote. Engaging fully with the task also works against lethargy by re-energizing the mind. But how effective this is depends on how quickly we recognize the onset of laziness and lethargy. Right? How many tasks have you felt like you've procrastinated, and then once you began the task, you actually finished it much quicker than you thought it was going to take, and it may have actually been more joyful than you thought, and so just seeing, right, all the mental activity that goes prior to doing the task. The meditation factor of directed attention opposes laziness and lethargy and vice versa. This hindrance impedes directed attention because we cannot easily direct a dull, tired, and unmotivated mind. In meditation, just doing it means you keep directing attention to the meditation object, countering procrastination and any loss of mental energy. Eventually, directed attention becomes powerful and automatic enough to completely overcome laziness and lethargy. Laziness and lethargy. So when we have, right, so there's kind of like two opposites, right? When we have an unmotivated mind, how do we bring in that activated attention, right? And when we have that activated directed attention, then lethargy and procrastination and lethargy, they just stay at bay. Now they might creep in, but then we come back to it. Now, as we've practiced before, people would be like, well, what do I direct my attention to? Right. And that's a really good question. And you might not know You might not know. Directing your attention to the sensation of the breath might be really difficult at first when you're beginning of this practice. What is that? I mean, I'm just right. My mind is spinning, or my emotions are uncontrolled. What can I actually help direct my attention to? Right. So this is where really kind of trying out different things can help. And this is where we've done different, directed attention practices, where we've done felt senses in the body. We've done, sounds. We've done mantras, right? And I've mentioned before, what really helped me, right, was finding a mantra, a repetition of a sound, word, phrase. And even in the most lethargic, even in the most difficult of times, it wasn't my breath. My breath came later. This is when I was beginning practice. It just became the repetition, a rapid repetition of a sound or phrase, just a rapid repetition, right? And it could be anything. The one that got me through my graduate studies was a very simple one. It was I am. It was just a simple, I am. And when I was directing my attention, right, imagine, right, this colorful world in my head where I was directing my attention to I am, and yet all the other thoughts and lethargy and procrastination and other thoughts, it was almost as if they were like vultures or turkey vultures sort of hovering around trying to get in, right? But the directed attention was my choice. And I could see it was almost as if I could see the vultures, all these other thoughts sort of circulating. And yet they had no energy. They had no power. Why? Because I was coming back to my directed attention. And over time, what happened is that it just simply became easier to direct the attention. It's almost like I was like, the first time you try to shovel a ditch for a river, right? Maybe you get 2 inches in and the water comes and you're not really collecting much water. And then the next time you shovel deeper and it gets 4 inches, now you're seeing a little bit of water. But once you get to 20 inches or 30 inches or 40 inches below the ground, now you have a nice, you're choosing the path that you're directing in your brain by the repetitive attentional, by the directed attentional practice. Okay. So it might not be something, if you have a practice like this, it might not be something that you see the benefit of over immediately, but just kind of like what that said, right? You can kind of be like, okay, could there be a sliver of truth in this? If there is, let me try it for a period of time and see. And even if I notice over a month, do it for 30 days. If I notice any benefit over 30-day practice, then you're going in the right direction. Then we continue. And then there's going to be sort of a quantum snowball effect that occurs, and you're going to see minuscule changes. And then all of a sudden it may actually sort of snowball, or you kind of see a quantum leap in the effect. You're like, wow, I'm actually doing a really good sort of attentional practice. Okay, so that's going to be our practice today. Is a rip wrap, a repetitive intentional practice with a repetitive attentional practice. Okay, so let's find a comfortable posture. A posture we feel relaxed, yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze. And if at all during this practice you feel lethargic, like you're going to fall asleep, a really good initial antidote is just opening your eyes or standing up. Standing up, activating your muscles. If you feel as if you can maintain a level of alertness, then you can rest comfortably in your posture. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths and bringing yourself ever so slightly more to the present moment as best you can. With each exhale, releasing any tension, even if it's just the intention of releasing the tension. And setting an intention for your practice. What is the intention for your practice today? Any intention at all. An intention that you can come back to. That can help redirect your practice as your mind wanders. And then choosing your choice, conscious choice, a very specific place that you can direct your attention to. That may help you fulfill your intention for the practice. What can you pay attention to that you choose? And that is your focus. Our rip-rap, our repetitive intentional practice, and our repetitive attentional practice. Recognizing all the times that our mind gets pulled away from what we're choosing to pay attention to, and coming back. And that's the practice. And just recognizing where your attention is now. And if it's wandered, that's a beautiful moment of mindfulness, simply coming back with your repetitive attentional practice. Conscious choice of where you want to direct your attention over and over and over and over again. And being aware where your attention is now. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. Feeling your feet on the floor, your thighs on your chair, or whatever surface they're on. Opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. Stretching or moving if you need to stretch. And just taking a moment to reflect on your practice.